Hi, this is Charles Cabell again, and I wanted to talk about Maneuver by GMT Games, which is a very fun Napoleonic era type game. Some of the things that's nice about this is it has 8 different armies, and each army has its own strengths and weaknesses. It plays very well. It's light. It's not technical by any means, but it is very fun. Um, when I first got it, I really didn't like it because I didn't really understand historical, the lack of historical scenarios in here. At the time, I was like, I only want to play games with historical scenarios and things like that. But the more I started playing other games, the more I realized this kind of has a lot more to it than what I thought at first. So I kind of came back to it and played it again and decided this was really an interesting game. Now, this is the same guy who did Thunder Alley, which is a very cool little racing game. But the game starts with basically 4 tiles being put in the game, and one person. It's very back and forth. Of you choose 4 tiles, and the other person chooses how to lay out the 4 tiles, and the other person will decide which side of the board he wants to come in on and turn that towards him, and then the other player will choose 2 armies that he wants to play. So we'll play the Russians against the Ottomans, right? And then the other player gets to choose which of those 2 armies he wants to play. So we'll put the Ottomans over there, and we'll put the Russians over here. Um, then each side deploys their units on the board, and again alternating everything like that. And it's kind of like a chess or a checkers game at first here. Um, you lay your troops out however you want within those first 16, and your opponent will do the exact same thing. So we only have 1 cavalry with these Russians. So that's going to be tough because cavalry move 2, and infantry moves 1. You notice all of our combat values up to 8, 7. Oh, we have another infantry here, or cavalry here. So we look at the terrain on the board too. We want to take advantage of the forest and the woods and the hills. And the hills are good for artillery shots and things like that. And then the Austrian player is going to lay out his guys. And again, each one of those combat values is listed on the top of the card. And so at the very beginning, it's as simple as you order a unit and move him, and that's all there is to it. Now you have the choice of discarding cards or and then drawing up a card if you want. But you'll have 5 cards in your hand. You take a look at those, and then sadly I haven't even opened these before. If you want to go into combat, you have to have a combat card, and the card has the information listed on the front of it of what that card can do for you. It can do a specific card, it can do attack or defense. So if you want to attack somebody, you would roll a 1d10 plus your combat value against your opponent, whatever his combat value is, plus if he has a card, he can also use that to defend himself. So there's a little bit more to the combat sequence than that, but it's very easy to understand because you have to have the card in your hand in order to do an attack. In order to defend yourself, to add on to defense, you have to have a card that matches the unit. So what's going to happen as the game goes on, you're going to have these 5 cards in your hand, but you've got all these units. So in the early beginning of the game, you have a lot of choices as far as which unit can be activated, which unit can be go into combat and stuff. But as the game goes on, some of your units might be eliminated, and once they're eliminated, those cards will become dead cards in your hand. So you're going to be pushing through the deck faster and faster to get rid of your cards. Now, one of the things that happens is that when both players run out of their decks and the day is ended, and that's when the battle is ended. So the faster you go through your deck, the more likely it is that the day is going to end. Now, there's something else. Oh, basically 2 hits and you're out. So if this unit gets hit, he flips over to his weaker side. He goes from a 6 to a 5, and he's reduced. And there's also a phase of the game that can rally this unit if you have a card for him, or a card like you can have the unit card itself can be used to rally him. There's cards specifically designed to play, and there's also a very good player aid on the Geek, which looks like this, and I can't remember the name of it, but it does a very good job of going through the game setup and going through the sequence of play. It talks about the exact sequence of play and what you can do during the game and such. And then it talks about the victory conditions and how to figure that out. And basically, you want to be on the enemy side uninhibited. So if you're here and there was nobody around you, it's going to give you more points than if there's somebody right here and here, even if you are on the enemy side. Those two zones are basically taken away from you in points. So if you're moving to an area, cavalry is really good at the end of the game to move into far areas that are completely empty and kind of capture a lot of points. So I won't talk about combat and assault, but I will say that when you're playing the game, it's important to remember that the discard phase is the first thing that happens, and then you draw back up to 5 cards in your hand. So as you play, you're going to be burning these cards out of your hand. During your turn, your opponent's turn comes, and you will not be able to draw cards back up into your hands until the beginning of the next turn. So you might have 2 cards left in your hand, and he's doing attacks, and you basically cannot do anything about it because you just burned your card to do another defense. So it's one of those, you got to be careful of what's activated, what you think your opponent has, and all that. So I highly recommend this game just because it kind of gives you a good idea of how the French play and the Russians play and the Spanish play and the Americans play. And you can pit any army against anybody, and it works really well. Some armies are worse than others, but that's all about the flavor of the game. It's really, really cool. It's light, it's thematic, and it tells a nice storyline as it's going along. I hope you enjoyed the review. Again, it's Manoeuvre, which is impossible to spell for me, by GMT Games. And take care. Oh, please be sure to like or subscribe, and leave some comments if you like it.